This is Rick Gailey coming to you from the coach's office, and I'd like to welcome you to some previews and reviews of the past week. This is week 10 of the prep season, the final regular season game, and we're looking at the Saints week 9 after their great win over the Seattle Seahawks last week, getting ready to go play the 49ers. Tulane travels to Central. Tulane battling every week and improving in that program all the time. And of course, the great matchup of LSU taking on Alabama. Coach O, has he brought the energy or what to Tiger Stadium and to the LSU Tigers? But Bergeron getting ready to lead the Tigers against a superior Alabama team. We'll talk about that. But first and foremost, as we do from the coach's office, let's take a look at some of the prep stories coming in once again to week 10. And it doesn't get any bigger than McDonough 35 taking on Edna Carr over at Berman Stadium. Two undefeated teams playing for district supremacy and for a higher seeding as they get ready for the playoffs, which starts next week. As much as we're followed by Ron Eagle graduates, it's going to be an uphill climb for Coach Reese's McDonough 35 football team. Once again, even though they are very good, Carr is one of the two, maybe three best teams in the state of Louisiana, regardless of classification. They have just been dominant all year, taking on all comers, which you would expect because this is an experienced football team with lots of players coming back from last year's runner-up finish, losing by only 1 point to Neville. And they brought back 18 to 22 starters, and they've remained healthy most of the year. So when you're looking at their record during the course of the season at 8-0, Carr's offense has scored 50 or more points in its last 6 wins, and the fewest number of points they scored all season was 35 points at St. Paul's. St. Paul's is an excellent defensive football team. So you're looking at the Cougars averaging 52.5 points a game, only giving up 128 points during the course of the season. The Ron Eagles at 9-0, 5-0 in district, are not to be sneezed at. They're averaging what would normally be a very healthy 30.5 points a game. And they've played great defense as well, as they've only given up 10.6 points per game. And they've had 2 shutouts during the course of the season. Ron Eagles last week hung on to beat the Amite Warriors at Amite 21-18, stopping a late goal line drive by the Warriors, stopping the Warriors on 4th and goal at the very end of the game from the 1-yard line to preserve the victory. So that brilliant goal line stand sets up this week's battle at Berman. That's going to be on Thursday night. And I'm recording this early because we've got several Thursday night games, and that is one of them here in the New Orleans area. Last year, Carr beat the Ron Eagles 27-20 in a very tough game, and that is to be expected again. A huge, huge atmosphere at Berman Stadium tonight. You can see that game live here at sportsnola.com. It will be a live stream with a 7 o'clock kickoff. That's the live stream, sportsnola.com, McDonough 35 at Berman Stadium to play the Edna Carr Cougars. Also tonight on WGSO 990 AM, Ken Trahan and I along with Billy Duncan, the former Curtis quarterback, are broadcasting on the radio the John Curtis Archbishop Shaw game from Zephyr Field tonight, finishing up the regular season. Last week, he had a great win by John Curtis over Rummel, 31-17. The score was tied with 6 minutes to go, but Curtis really took advantage of the situations that were presented to them and pulled away at the end from Rummel, giving Rummel their second consecutive loss, while Curtis stays undefeated and with a win tonight guarantees the Catholic League championship in only Curtis's second year in the historic Catholic League. So Ken and I, along with Billy Duncan, will be doing that game tonight. WGSO.com, starting at 7 o'clock. So 2 wonderful games, one streaming live on Sports NOLA and the other on the radio on WGSO.com. Some other big games in the area. De La Salle, undefeated on the season at 9-0, 6-0 in district. Travel to the Dog Yard on the campus of Lutcher High School to take on the Bulldogs, who are 8-1, also 6-0 in district, with the winner earning the District 9 3A championship. And it is being billed as the unofficial state championship game because with the split between select and non-select, select being predominantly private schools and magnet schools, and the non-select, which is predominantly traditional public schools, Lutcher and De La Salle cannot meet in the playoffs. They'll be in separate brackets. So this is 2 of the very best teams, without a doubt, in AAA, and they'll be playing tonight for the unofficial state championship game. Had a chance to see De La Salle last week against Abramson, Psi Academy, and while Psi Academy was really overmatched, they really played hard the whole game, Psi did, but De La Salle being too much, and I was very impressed with the focus and concentration and intensity that De La Salle portrayed in that particular game, even though it would have been easy for them to kind of just mail it in. They really did a nice job against Psi Academy. Lutcher has been building every week. As I mentioned, 6-0 in district, and it's going to be quite a matchup. De La Salle is probably the better football team at this time of year. Their offensive and defensive lines are very, very good, and the matchup against Lutcher's offensive and defensive lines really goes to the Cavaliers. This is a season and a game that De La Salle has been pointing to all year, so you can look for the Cavaliers to put forth their best effort, as will the Bulldogs. But in my opinion, De La Salle is the better football team this year. Another quick note looking back to the McDonough 35 and Carl. McDonough 35 might be a year away from being at their best. 35 has more than 20 juniors on the team, I believe 11 seniors. They're very reminiscent of the Carr team last year. So you could be looking at a situation where 35, as good as they are, might be a year away, but a very young football team going against that experienced Carr Cougar team. So there's 2 of the very best games, along with the third being the Curtis game, which, to be completely honest, Curtis is much better than Shaw. Shaw's only 1-8 this year, really having a tough time of it. But as far as Curtis finishing off the Catholic League schedule, that's what makes that game of note. Let's take a quick look around the state, and especially Southeast Louisiana, at some of the great games that are going on Great rivalry on the North Shore, Covington at Mandeville. You're looking at Thibodaux at Hornville. Hornville has really been coming on of late. Thibodaux has had a couple of tough losses the last couple of weeks to St. Aug and to Destrehan, but they could just about play with everybody. So that game should be highly competitive. Rummel is playing St. Augustine at Gormley. We just had Coach Al Jones on Prep Recruiting Insider last night with Renee Nato and myself. And we had 4 athletes from St. Aug as well, and Coach Al Jones' son, Chad Jones. You remember him not only from St. Aug, but also the terrific football and baseball star for the Tigers before that incredible accident that he went through. Well, Chad was with us yesterday, and Coach Al Jones and the Purple Knights really represented themselves beautifully on Prep Recruiting Insider. Well, they're hosting the Rummel Raiders at Gormley on Friday night. Jesuit and Brother Martin are going to be at Zephyr Field, and that's going to be live streamed on sportsnola.com, as well as a replay on Saturday at noon on WHNO TV 20. A meet is going to undefeated Albany for Week 10. Albany's been one of the surprise teams of the year. And a meet, of course, a traditional power in AAA. Some of the other excellent matchups. You have Country Day, who last week lost for the first time against Riverside, and they're taking on St. Charles Catholic in Laplace. Newman is traveling to Edgard to play West St. John. So that is some of the games locally. Saturday's got a very short slate. The only local game is Warren Easton versus Lake Erie and New Tech. That's at 3 o'clock. Everybody's got to finish their season early on Saturday so that all those 9 brackets, yes, you heard it right, 9 brackets can be made overnight Saturday and early Sunday so that all of the brackets can be aligned. All issues can be resolved in case there's a question about power rankings, and the playoffs can indeed begin next week. Once again, as I mentioned, 9 state champions, 4 on the select side, and that's going to be a 4-week sprint starting next week, and it finishes a week before the 5 classifications of non-select schools that next week in the first 2 weeks of December. So stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date. If you want to keep up with all the scores besides the live games that we stream at sportsnola.com, you could turn into WGSO 990 AM starting at 6 o'clock with Countdown to the Original with Ro Brown and I coming from Lakeview Harbor. It'll be Curtis Patriot Night there. Coach JT Curtis will be with us. And Patriot Faithful will all be at Lakeview Harbor on Harrison Avenue, 911 Harrison, as a matter of fact. And then from 7 to 11, the best prep scoreboard show anywhere. Ken Trahan's original prep football report from 7 to 11. And if you want up-to-the-minute scores from anywhere in the state, go to sportsnola.com, go to prep, go to scoreboard, and you'll have all of the games that you can keep updated with continuously throughout the night. Just a great scoreboard at sportsnola.com. So that's a look at the prep situation here around New Orleans. Now let's take a quick look at the results that the Saints put together last week in defeating the Seattle Seahawks. What an excellent outing that was for the Saints, winning 25-20 over the Seahawks. New Orleans Saints have now won 3 out of their last 4 games. The only loss at Kansas City, with victories over San Diego on the road, Carolina, and now Seattle here at home.